Hey everybody, glad to see you. Hope you're having a good evening. I think evening's going to get better from here on out if you stick with us at the Movies with Film. Film Brown here. We've talked about Jacques Tati before. Brought you a great film called Mon Oncle. One of the great comedians of all time is Jacques Tati. We have another one of his great films for you tonight. It is Mr. Hulot's Holiday. And in this one, again, he is playing the, well, what do you describe the Hulot character as being? Sort of a mild-mannered man, no doubt, who says very little. He doesn't speak really anything in this film. He doesn't need dialogue. Matter of fact, any of the dialogue you hear in this, now we have an English language version of this, and it has been dubbed into English, but I don't know why you would need to do that because none of the things that are said are needed. It's interesting. I was just looking through the credits here too. Uncredited. You know who one of the voices was? Now I'm not sure if I can believe this. Internet Movie Database is pretty good on things, but it says that one of the uncredited dubbing voices in this was Christopher Lee. Hey, you know, right there. Makes it worth having on here, right, at the Movies of Film. Bring a lot of great horror films. Got Christopher Lee. We like Christopher Lee. Well, think about it. When you got Tati and Christopher Lee meeting together, whoa, that's energy filled. Well, this film, very quiet movie. A film, and by quiet, I mean there's not like a lot of great action, rock'em sock'em, you know, staking vampires and stuff like that going on in it. It's very much what it says. Mr. Hulot goes on a vacation at a seaside resort. And he's with a group of people who, in this inn-like resort, kind of have to hang around. You know, in Europe, they tend to go on these massive vacations all at once, and they kind of live at these locations for lengthy periods of time. It's not like us here in the United States. We go on a vacation for a week, takes us 3 days to get there, running like heck, spend 1 day there, then take 3 days to get back, and by the time we get back, we're almost a nervous exhaustion. Okay, there, they ease themselves into their holidays, and they spend time at their locations. It's not like they have to be doing stuff all the time, like, oh, got to ride Space Mountain and all that stuff today and all of that. No, they can sit around, play cards, sit on the beach, let the water flow over them, and then take off. Now, Mr. Hulot's Holiday is a remarkable film. I say it's a quiet film, but it's a film full of sounds. Now, I was thinking about this 1953 film, and I'm thinking in regards to just Tati himself. Tati could have, and I say could, have worked in the silent era. Because he has very much got a lot of the gags that are, well, hallmark of a lot of the silent films. And since he doesn't use dialogue, per se, for information or content, he could have survived in silent film. However, I'm not sure if that's the case. The sounds that he uses, the sound effects, non-synchronous sounds very often, the sounds that you're debating whether they are a part of the diegesis or not. Are they diegetic, non-diegetic? Are they a part of character space or beyond or outside of character space? Are issues that, well, silent film wouldn't have been able to deal with in a very full way. Now, certainly they did have sound effects that were pinned to certain actions on the screen, particularly as we moved later into the silent era, moving towards sound. But Tati knows by 1953 that we know the codes of cinema. And we know the codes of sound. We know when a person speaks, we're supposed to say, hey, what are they saying? They're going to be talking about some big plan where somebody's going to take over the world and somebody else has to stop them. Okay? We think content. We think also very often that what needs to be said is intelligible. Okay? Here, much of what it said is like, wak, 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 wak. Okay? Making no sense. Likewise, we know that in sound codes, most often sound effects are used for purposes to create an ambience of the world and the way that filmmaker wants us to understand that world. In this film, the world that Tati creates for us is a very strange world. A door, for instance, that leads into the cafeteria area of the inn makes this odd boing, boing, reminds me of the fish, for instance, in Mon Oncle, that they turn on. Glunk, 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 glunk. Or reminds me of the door that leads to the home that we see, the futuristic home in Mon Oncle. Sounds are used very purposefully in here. used for elements of distress, used for elements of humor, used for elements of scratch your head, and elements of motifs, things that are repeated over and over again. The use of that door sound is a great motif. Matter of fact, at times, we'll see that door make motions, and we won't hear the door making that boing sound. Now, what's he doing there? He's setting up expectations, and when he doesn't give it to you, we say, where did the sound go? Now, if he were giving us the sounds of everything from the world that we see people on that screen, we wouldn't be asking that question per se. He selects his sounds very, very particularly. And then through repetition, we are saying, it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there, and then it's not there. We pay attention to when it's not there. And then it comes back. Remarkable. Again, if sound were ever present, giving us that realistic sense of ambience, we wouldn't necessarily be asking those questions. But we do in Tati's world. That's why I argue he does very much need sound. He is a sound technician at its best. There are some great gags in here. Can't give away a lot of them, but one of my favorite sections of the film is the funeral sequence. Stumbles upon a funeral, and some really interesting things happen. And as per Tati, they're not the kind of... Now, one, Tati doesn't rip you up with great laughs. Okay, there are some. And again, I think that as you watch his films over and over again, the laugh kind of grows in you, and you know them, and they become familiar to you, and you laugh. The more I see these two films, I'm laughing out loud. You yourself might not be, pounding your sides and going crazy laughing on some of these. Well, you might, okay? But as you grow with Tati, you will come to a greater appreciation of the artistry in his humor. Now, Tati, the figure Tati, remarkable creation. If you know that Mr. Bean guy, that British Mr. Bean, Mr. Bean really does owe a lot to Tati. To that Hulot. The Hulot character is really Mr. Bean. Now, the thing about Mr. Bean, that I really didn't like about him, and sometimes I liked it. I did like Mr. Bean, but some of the things that Mr. Bean was sort of a mean-spirited guy. He just seemed to me to be a mischievous, impish, sort of, stumble through the world and kind of mess it up a little bit. And I think he was very cynical, and I think that he was a bit devilish. Okay? Now, when you look at Hulot, Hulot is a man who really doesn't seem to have a bad bone in his body. And he really gets away with that naivete with a sense of beauty and grace. Sometimes you see a naive character and you say, you dumb guy, don't you see all that? You deserve what you get and things like that. But with Hulot and the way Tati impersonates this Hulot character and puts him on the screen, the persona of Hulot is somebody that's very endearing. We want to take care of him. Even when he does stupid things, we still say, but it's Hulot. Well, I think you're going to have fun with this film. Really fun little adventure in sound, if you will. Mr. Hulot's Holiday. Let's roll 'em, Smokey.